Come on. Okay. And now Twitch and Rumble. Okay. Okay, hopefully those are all going now. Awesome. So, and I'm recording on the DAR. I'm recording.
Are we ready for the
live for the 5 seconds? I think so.
Wow, Kennethan. Good job. Trigger happy there.
That is here since 420. I don't know if you saw that before, but
yeah.
Did he get a head start?
He put in the first, but it didn't show.
Well, we don't. I don't have any things on this.
Yes, all right.
There's the achievement there. Okay,
there we go.
I mean, I can still get first by saying not first.
Yes,
so I think your system's
It just
broken.
looks for the first letters. Anyway,
sorry.
Regardless,
Peter, we're looking at the Twitch chat. Sorry,
I was picking up that context. Like, okay, I think this is what's going on.
You love Little Shop of Horrors first. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so Paul, will you pray for us real quick?
Sure, Lord, thank you so much for this day that you've made and for all of us together. I pray that you would be glorified and we don't regret it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Not that he wouldn't
regret him being
glorified, but that we wouldn't regret whatever happens tonight.
Oh, okay. I look like plant food, Bobo. How dare you? Can you guys...
Yum.
Good enough to eat, husband.
Paul, Ashley, and Pear, can you all hear this?
Best fits.
Okay. Yep. All right.
To feed to the space plant.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, Francisco, can you hear this?
Let's rock this jump.
I swear, if I have to do 3 ninjas for a birthday pic, Paul, we will cover it. Yes, I can hear it. Okay. Then all of us, I'm going to take 5 seconds of floor noise. Don't mute yourself. Don't talk, but we're just going to be quiet without muting yourself so I can remove any ambient noise from your tracks later. All right, so we're going to start now.
Okay, Power Rangers, let's do it!
Every time. Okay, thank you.
Torpid time!
Oh my gosh, Paul. Okay, got that.
How do you know it's me? Maybe Peter has that.
Maybe I have a soundboard somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you guys have soundboards, Ashley or Peter?
I wish I
don't.
Okay, then by process of elimination, it's you, Paul. I should have asked Peter since it's been a bit. Any questions about tonight? I think it's pretty standard from what you've experienced.
Yeah,
before,
I don't think so. I'm ready for another good time with you guys. So,
are you ready to record the episode twice?
Oh, did we did that once with one? Didn't we?
Why did we have? Which one was that?
You weren't there, Francisco.
Oh, okay. That must have been like Dark Crystal, maybe.
It was.
Okay.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's funny.
Okay.
I'd cry if I had to do that.
Because you don't like Dark Crystal?
No, if I had to do something twice, it would make me cry.
You mean like singing the opening skit?
It's fine.
Okay.
That's neither here nor there. But having to record an entire episode because you lost the audio, didn't record.
Everybody who does podcasts has been there at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an initiation.
It's why I'm just a guest and I don't actually have one.
Also, Ken, Bob, anyone else watching? Let me know what you think of this new sort of design for the layout. Just curious what your thoughts on that.
You were fiddling with it earlier.
Yeah, I was.
You made everyone look like tomatoes.
We don't.
Oh, so he wasn't the only one?
He had like 4 of his image.
Well, because he was aligning.
Testing.
Anyway, okay, let's go ahead. Thumbs up if you're ready to actually start the podcast part. That's great, Paul. Hey, Dale. All right, then, guys. Ashley, whenever you are ready.
Okay. I'm like looking on this on my other screen, so I'm like, don't be surprised if I'm like,
that's fine.
Blah. Okay, let's see. Between our frozen dinners and our bedtime, 9:15, we'd struggle. I have to redo it. Sorry.
That's fine. Are you? And does she sing it, baby, in the baby
She doesn't
voice?
sing. She's off and off and on, and I can't.
That's fine.
I'll claw my ears out if I sing in a baby voice.
I can try.
I'm laughing how close that is.
Let's see. She's like, between our frozen dinners
that's actually really good.
and our bedtime, 9:15, we'd snuggle by our hi-fi for the podcast Retro Rewind.
That is great. Can you do it one more time? Because I talked over you.
I want to claw your ears out now. But I'm channeling more Harley Quinn than I...
Actually, I'm recording
That
our
works.
tracks separately, so you don't have to, because I can just mute myself. I mean,
He says that now. He's going to ask you
I'm like,
again
do
later.
I need to do it again? Or
I
no?
would feel better if you did it one more time,
Okay.
and I'll be quiet.
I hope you will. Between our frozen dinners and our bedtime, 9:15, we'd snuggle by a hi-fi for the podcast Retro Rewind.
Retro systems online. Reflux capacitor fluxing. Scanning movie space-time for Little Shop of Horrors, 1986. Rewinding in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the not an alien plant, pauljpowers.com, Powers.
I think my website's getting bigger every time. Just like this plant.
Dun, dun, dun. Also, for this discussion of the film Little Shop of Horrors, we welcome back aboard Chief Entertainer of the pod, Peter Franson. Hey, Peter.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know if I can handle that. Chief Entertainer?
I mean, you've been on for this is your 7th episode, so yeah.
Oh, wow.
You were promoted to Chief last time you were on.
Hey. Okay. As long as it doesn't come with any more responsibilities, fine.
It's actually double the responsibilities, but
Don't worry, it's double the pay.
yeah, it's double the pay too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes
Yeah.
up for it.
I would like to take a moment and say it's been a while since Peter's been on, and I'm so happy that he's back on. And now it's Peter standing beside us. Sorry, it's suddenly Peter podcasting with us.
Is
I
that from this
like the
movie?
alliteration of Seymour better, but we'll get to that.
Suddenly Seymour is just so perfect. But
Oh,
presently, Peter, you want to just like switch
Oh,
it up?
hey.
Presently Peter. There we go.
Podcasting
We workshop
beside
it.
you.
We'll figure it out.
Nice, Ashley.
You just gotta do it. You just gotta do it like that.
that's
Alliteration.
from this movie.
I'll leave the singing to
Suddenly
the.
Seymour standing beside you.
Did you fall asleep again?
No, I
Francisco?
didn't fall asleep.
Sweet
Anyway,
understanding.
the beautiful voice. I mean, Pear has a beautiful voice, but the other beautiful voice you're hearing right now
Oh, thank
is
you.
our other guest, administration officer of the pod, Ashley Ruiz. Welcome back, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. Hi,
course.
everybody.
Thanks for being here. And now that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for Little Shop of Horrors, the 1986 musical version directed by Frank Oz, not another one?
What? Yeah, the Little Shop of Horrors, released August 5th, 1960, right? The black and white one?
No.
I want to see
What?
that movie. Anyone with me? It looked interesting.
I saw it.
Was it bad?
It wasn't that bad. It was actually at a runtime is only 1 hour and 13 minutes, and it stars like a young unknown Jack Nicholson at the
Okay,
time.
we'll get there
That's
later.
cool.
Can you do this
All
movie,
right,
Paul?
Fine. The which one?
The 1986 version,
All right, the 80s one, directed by who?
Frank Oz.
Frank. All right, the 80s one, directed by Frank Oz. All right. The Muppets Take Manhattan was released July 13th, 1984. It's rated G, runs an hour and 34 minutes.
Paul.
It was directed by Frank Oz.
Paul.
What?
Yes, a movie directed by Frank Oz in 1986, but with
80s,
the name
where the
Little Shop of Horrors.
Manhattan. No?
No.
Which one?
Little Shop of Horrors. Oh my God.
That could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
Fine. Go back. All right, let's try this again. Little Shop of Horrors was released in the 80s.
Not the cartoon, if that's where you're queuing up.
All right, December 19th, 1986.
That's okay. Finally, here we go.
Hey.
It runs, this is a difficult one.
Oh, yeah.
It runs an hour and 34 minutes. Maybe?
Yes, the theatrical, I believe. Is
Theatrical version. Okay. It was rated PG-13. It was also directed by Frank Oz. It was written by Howard Ashman, Roger Corman, Charles B. Griffith, with lead stars being Rick Moranis, Ellen Greene, Vincent Gardenia, and Levi Stubbs, with music composed by Alan Menken and Miles Goodman.
Paul, I'm going to pause you there, Paul. You're coming in pretty hot on at least that's how I'm hearing you.
You want me to start all over?
Yeah, go ahead and start. Not the whole bit, just the.
All right, my website's getting awfully longer these days.
The Little Shop of Horrors, Paul.
You went back too far.
We have to get Peter out of here. Come on.
All right. Little Shop of Horrors. Is that fine?
Yes.
Maybe I shouldn't be just so excited about this film. Maybe that's my problem.
Yes, that's it.
But maybe if I sit back here. All right. Little Shop of Horrors. Is that one? All right. Little Shop of Horrors was released December 19th, 1986. Runs an hour and 34 minutes. It's rated PG-13 and is also directed by Frank Oz. It was written by Howard Ashman, Roger Corman, and Charles B. Griffith, with lead stars being Rick Moranis, Ellen Greene, Vincent Gardenia, and Levi Stubbs, with music composed by Little Mermaid Alan Menken and Miles Goodman.
Wait,
Are you ready for the
mermaid?
Yes. Didn't you know that?
No, I didn't. Continue.
All right. Are you ready for the box office trivia?
I think I'm ready. Ashley and Peter, are you guys ready?
Sure.
Let's go.
And anyone watching in chat, I see Sean, Ken, Bobo, everyone, Dale, you guys are welcome to guess as well. Go for it, Paul.
All right. Little Shop of Horrors, the 1986 version, was made for about $30 million and earned around $38 million at the box office.
Oh, just barely here.
So given this fact, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the movies released theatrically in 1986? We'll go for the top 50.
Top 50.
Within there.
Okay. Ashley, what is your guess for where it
This is a really
ranks?
tough one. I mean, so many movies came out in 86 that were significantly better and performed better. I can't. Let's just go with the good old. Let's go with how old I'll be.
You could.
I'm gonna go with 38 because that's gonna be the number. So let's go with 38. I mean, I was a month old when this movie came out.
I was gonna say you could phone a friend. Mary Kay is here in chat, so you could ask
My
her.
mama's here?
Yes, she is.
Aw, hi mama.
Oh, I thought one of the Olsen twins was here.
Oh my gosh.
My mama is Mary Kay, but not Mary Kate and Ashley, but
Oh.
Mary
38.
Kay and Ashley. People would make that joke. But yeah, let's go with 38.
Okay, Peter, what is your guess?
My instinct was like along the lines of Ashley was going with your own age. And so I'm going to say 46.
46.
46 out of like, because you said it's within the top 50, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Confirm that? Okay, I'm going to say 46.
All right. You know what, guys? I'm going to continue the trend of picking your own age. So I'm going to guess 22.
22 times 2 minus 1.
Minus 1? Oh, dang it is. Let's see. And then in chat here, Bobo guesses 15. Ken guesses 42. Sean guesses 13. Mary Kay guesses 19. And Dale guesses 12. So lots of teen guesses and then lots of lower guesses. So, Paul, where did it actually end up?
Well, if someone just headed straight down the middle, they would have got it at 25.
25.
Wow,
Okay.
does that mean the captain wins?
I think it does mean I win. Cool, that's what I get for choosing my own age. Yeah.
Times 2 minus 1.
Stop it. All right. Well, thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we'll get into once Alice is located, our target film.
Alert. Alert. Target located. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
And I forgot to cue this up, so hold on.
It's a good thing we don't have a hard stop.
Pick it up, Francisco.
Mode.
Isn't that like the third one?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
We'll go with that, sure.
Shop of Horrors, share.
Not that anyone counts anymore.
I still do.
Oh.
I just don't call them out.
And Anya, copy this over here. Let's do studio mode, trailer.
Is that the best you can do?
Wow. Sorry, Sean. I'm doing my best.
I'm like, have I seen that movie?
Best. Dragonheart? I don't
No,
know.
I haven't.
Losers always whine about their best.
I've seen that movie.
Sponsored by PaulJPowers.com. Like this stream here.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. End of studio mode here. Go to trailer. Okay. All right. You guys should be able to hear this.
Hopefully you can record it.
If you're shopping for a fearless hero, a striking blonde, a dentist, a hip DJ, and a really funny plant, stop and shop at the Little Shop of Horrors.
That's right. I'm just a mean green mother from outer space, and I'm paid.
Big fun is in store.
That is incredible.
At the Little Shop of Horrors.
I am bad at remembering this movie, actually, because this is like the first time I think I have very few memories of this movie. I'm not even sure I saw it all to begin with, but that commercial may have triggered some memories for you all. So let's find out what we collectively remembered in our memory mind melt synopsis for Little Shop of Horrors. Every nerd hero, Wayne Zielinski, who lives in urban Skid Row and pines for the girl of his dreams, Audrey, while taking care of an ever-growing Venus fly Muppet from space. One of the three amigos is a sadistic dentist. He really is the jerk, oh my gosh, who works on Bill Murray, who temporarily steals the movie with hilarious and psychotic masochism. Louis Tully and OG Audrey work to stop Seymour, the Feed Me green plant monster, from taking over the world like it plans on doing every night. Right? Right, Pinky? Wait, would that be... That'd be more like, right, Pinky? I can't do... What's his name? Maurice
LaMarche.
Yeah, that guy.
Impersonating Orson Welles.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking. I was like, I think it's Orson Welles, but go ahead.
Impersonation of Orson.
And the duo continue on, blow up the floral shop. So Dark Helmet gets the girl and they live happily ever after. Or they both get eaten with plants while plants rule the world. Wow. I mean, there was a lot of that was right, but I don't know who these characters are. Louis Tully, the jerk, Muppet. No. I think our memories were decepted. But based on those memories as flawed as they were, what rating did they lead you to predict for this film before you rewatched it? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? Let's begin with Peter this time. What was your prediction?
Are we going to also say how
yes.
You introduced a new thing last time.
Thank you for the reminder, Paul. Yes, so
all right.
Give us your prediction. And also, when was the first time you saw this movie? So let's start with Peter.
Okay, so I predicted very firmly in my mind that this would be a classic, and that would be confirmed when I watched it again.
Okay.
The first time I ever saw Little Shop of Horrors, I was probably in junior high, had it taped off of TV, even had some lyrics that were changed because of that.
Nice.
But I mean, I watched it repeatedly, and I wrote out all the lyrics so I could learn all the songs.
Wow, okay.
I was a big fan way back in the day, and like I want to say 6th and 7th grade.
Okay, all right. Then Ashley, how about you? Same questions.
Same question. So I'm giving you my initial rating and how I first was exposed to Little Shop of Horrors. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my initial rating out the gate was nostalgic because I remembered liking this movie, having some memorable things like the music just sticking with me like an earworm that never really ever left me. But in all honesty, I didn't see Little Shop of Horrors until 2005.
Oh, okay.
When Family Guy covered the song Somewhere That's Green in an episode of season 4 in a most peculiar way. And that song stuck with me, and I just had to know where it was from. So by doing a quick Google search, figuring, okay, this clearly is not how it is in the movie, but where does it come from? Finding out that there was not only a musical, but a movie version of the musical. I actually went to Blockbuster that weekend, rented the movie, loved it, and had the soundtrack just stuck in my head for forever and and ever.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. How about you, Paul?
The first time I saw this actually wasn't till about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So it had been one of those things that it's just been like, yeah, I knew about it, but I never saw it, and I finally got around to seeing it. And it's funny because my brother said, "Okay, which version did you watch?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there's 2 different endings depending on which version you watch." And it turns out I watched the director's cut where, you know, first.
Whoa.
So he's like, "Oh, that's great, because I read online that a lot of people like that one better. So don't bother with the theatrical," is what he told me at the time. Okay. And by the way, that's the one where, you know, everybody dies and plants take over the world.
Yes.
So I didn't really care for it that much. I didn't absolutely hate it, but I didn't have any desire to watch it again. So I predicted that this would be, and this, my second rewatch, would be nostalgic, because I think it would be right in the middle.
All right. And for me, I like I said previously, I may have seen this movie when I was 5. I remember little bits and pieces, but I think having just watched it, I just absorbed most of it through osmosis and through just like of the culture. And I never really had any interest to see it. So I predicted tragic just because I was never motivated to go see this movie. So it'll be interesting to see, though, if those predictions pan out. Maybe predictions final ratings will go up or down or stay the same. We'll find out later. But first,
I have a question. Just based on before we get into the main discussion.
Yeah.
Do any of you 3 have a natural predisposition against musicals? Like, you just
good
don't
question.
like musicals?
That is a good question. Ashley, you're nodding your head. Yes, that's surprising to me.
No,
I am too.
I have a natural predisposition towards musicals.
Okay.
I was about to say, I will give musicals the benefit of the doubt. So they actually start off better than I know some people have the opposite.
I was a theater nerd, so I was in musical theater in high school and into my late teens. So I'm predisposed to them. Sorry.
I don't have an issue with them. They just have to be good, I guess, for me. I don't have a.
What constitutes as good?
Newsies. I remember liking Newsies.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of live action musicals, there's more
Francisco,
animated.
what do you think of The Wizard of Oz?
Is that
anyway,
a musical?
moving on.
Wow. Tragic. That's what I think.
I know. That's like, let's not go into that.
Okay, let's get into the things we liked about Little Shop of Horrors, guys. Alice?
Best bits.
All right. Oh, and Peter, I guess we didn't. Just going back real quick. How about you? Are you predisposed to not like?
Well, like Ashley, I have theater really in my background a lot, and music theater is certainly a big part of that. Oddly enough, most musicals I am not a fan of. I don't have a predisposition toward or against them. It depends on the style of music, the tone, the emotional tone of it. Stuff that's really happy and jazz handsy and smiley and saccharine, I'm going to tend to not be into. Usually for me, it's like the darker, the heavier, the more serious. That's what I'm going to gravitate toward more.
Okay.
So like Meatloaf.
But that said, there's still like plenty of music. It's surprisingly the rare musical that I'm really into, even though it's a big part of my background. But I wouldn't say I have a disposition for or against them.
So Peter loves Repo the Genetic Opera. Got it. I'm kidding. No one likes that.
I have another question though before we get into this.
Oh my gosh! All the preamble questions. Continue.
Well,
Go ahead, Paul.
like I said, there's 2 different versions. So which versions did each one of us watch
Okay.
going ahead?
All right.
Because that may make a difference.
Also, good point. So me and Ashley watched the director's cut, and then we went back and watched the last 15 minutes of the theatrical version.
And I will also say when I first watched it back in good old 2005, I watched the theatrical. So I've experienced both.
Okay.
Okay.
How about you, Peter?
I watched the theatrical cut and then just kind of thought, well, just for the sake of just kind of knowledge and refreshing my memory on kind of, because I didn't know you guys were going to know about the director's cut and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, let me watch that. And so I watched that I did watch that second. I went back and watched that.
Uh-huh.
That's the wrong order in my opinion, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Paul?
I actually watched the 1961 to see where it started.
Wow. Okay.
And then I watched the director's cut. And then I watched the last 20 minutes of the theatrical cut.
Okay. Did you watch the colorized or the black and white of that?
I watched the black and white. I try to stay true to its original.
That's fair. Okay. All right. Well, let's stay true to what we do here at this show, starting with the things we liked about the movies we're covering or the games we're covering. Ashley, what was one thing you liked about Little Shop of Horrors?
Oh my goodness. I really enjoyed this setting. Just how it set this like late 50s, like early 60s aesthetic and the world building that they did in Skid Row where these characters were living and just really, I don't know, capturing the cultural zeitgeist of the time. I feel like they did a really good job representing people living in a really poor, decrepit place and just their day-to-day lives. And I feel like they just set it between the costumes and the sets and everything. It just felt like it was setting the proper world.
Yeah.
And it looked like a play.
Yeah.
And that's, I usually like to give other people a chance, but that's actually one of the things that I really gravitated to this about is that it had this perfect, it looked like a cinematic musical, like a live action, like a live performance, but with cinematic qualities. Like, I don't think you'd ever get an Audrey with that type of movement ability. You'd never get all these awesome panning shots. And there's just so much about this that I thought, but it's still like the backgrounds. I could tell when it was like a matte painting or when it was just like these chintzy sort of buildings as the skyscrapers. But it had a charm to it that I was like, well, this is a musical. This is what like a live musical would sort of try to do, but with the much more cinematic quality. So I actually liked that as well.
I agree. I think it actually the crappy background props actually made it better.
Yeah.
It made it authentic. I felt like it really balanced the fact that it's like, okay, we're going to really be true to the heart of the musical where it came from, but let's zhuzh it up and give it a little something extra because we have this budget to work with, and they definitely worked with what they had.
Yeah. So just to be clear, Paul, that was one of your likes or that you're just adding?
No, I'm just adding, just agreeing with you.
Okay. Peter, let's go to you next. What's something you liked? Was it the setting? Was it something else?
Yeah, I mean, Ashley's, I should have thought of that. That was really, the setting is just excellent and just how dirty everything was and like the casting of people, like they just cast some people. I'm sure makeup did its part too, but just some people that were like unattractive character actors just sneering and stuff. I was like, dang, this movie has character, you know, they're not afraid to really go there. But no, my first thing that I liked was just the fun rock and 50s doo-wop influences and how they took from that time period and really represented it both faithfully and also a little bit poking fun at the style. I mean, they were bringing those elements out, but without like blatantly making fun. It was a celebration really of those kinds of styles. And Levi Stubbs singing along with, while talking about the music and his acting was a show stealer. So I would say just like the style of the music, and I feel like Levi Stubbs, his singing and acting, they almost kind of go together. You kind of have to talk about them together. You know?
Levi Stubbs, just for those listening, is that the Oogie Boogie Man?
He did the voice of Audrey, and he was one of the Four Tops.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did he do Oogie Boogie and Chris?
No, but to me, they sound so similar.
They have similar voice qualities, but no, they're two different.
But that is the character, of
Audrey II,
the singing,
aka Tui, as Seymour likes to call him.
Yes. Paul, was the music something that made your like list, or was there something else?
Yeah, let's go to my second like. We'll jump ahead to the music on that. Yeah, I thought it was catchy. In fact, if I had to pick my favorite song, it would probably be, I mean, there's so many good ones to choose from, but I think the opening Little Shop of Horrors theme is probably my favorite of all the songs.
Yeah.
You know, my second one is the
Dang it, Paul.
I mean, it's catchy.
Usually I see it coming.
I saw it coming. I wasn't going to warn you.
I was curious if you guys. Oh yeah, sorry, Peter. It's literally
this is
a
like
running
a
joke.
30 episode running joke now. Is what you're
See if you
experiencing.
can make it to 50.
Oh
that
my
would be
gosh.
pretty impressive.
But go ahead, Paul.
I was curious if you guys had a favorite of them.
I actually, this is my second like, so I'll just add to this, but I'll let Peter and Ashley add to this too. But I actually thought Somewhere Where It's Green is just so like
Somewhere That's Green.
So that too is just
Over
like so feel good, and so much of this music, even when it's darker, even when it's Audrey II singing about like wanting to kill and eat things, it's just so upbeat and like
hopeful.
Just so there's something just so feel good about it, and I can't really. I don't know how to articulate it musically very well, but I just know it just feels good, and I'm not sure why.
But at the same time, like I really like the fact that most musicals have one what is sometimes called an "I Want" song, which is what Wizard of Oz kind of like, if I remember correctly, kind of created that mold where you have your protagonist sing a song about what they want, what they're longing for, and this movie had at least two, maybe three. But
I was surprised how many.
And it was wonderful. I like, as I said earlier, I tend to like musicals that are allowed to go heavy. And yes, this one is tons of fun and silly and all that kind of stuff, but it really puts you in the place with these beautiful songs, of heaviness and longing for the characters. And so like Skid Row and Somewhere That's Green, and it's great. It's great.
Awesome. Okay, so just to check, Paul, you said that was your second like was the music. Did you do your first like and I missed it?
No.
Okay. Then
I'm trying to confuse you if you haven't noticed.
Clearly.
Ashley, let's go back to you. Actually, I'm sorry. Ashley and Peter, what did you have a favorite song? And if that happened to be your second like, then go into that. But Ashley?
Not my second like.
Okay.
Not my second like, but I honestly, there's two that are tied. I really enjoy Suddenly Seymour, just the fact that they're both singing, and it's really the revelation of feelings for one another, and it's just this beautiful thing saying like Seymour's standing up and he's going to be that person for Audrey, and she's really teaching him more about herself and revealing like where she's been and how she's been treated, and it gets me in the feels. But Somewhere That's Green is probably my favorite song in this entire musical, just because not only is it an I Want song, but it's one of just such hope that it's like, I know we're living in this terrible place. Our circumstances are absolutely horrid, but I can imagine this better life with this person, and it would be beautiful.
Yeah.
And it gets me every time, and I can't help but want to sing along with it and just have that hope and that passion right alongside those characters when they're singing those songs.
And Peter, did you have a favorite from this?
Yeah, I mean, I it's hard to pick, but I mean, she's already commented on the Somewhere That's Green. Thank you, Ashley. I was bored as a kid with that song.
Yeah,
but like watching this as an adult, I was so moved by that and by Skid Row and Suddenly Seymour. Those really, I mean, the songs that tended to be like, okay, let's get to the dentist song, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, you know, as a kid, the dentist song is my favorite. I think in this viewing, I can't pick a favorite, but in this last viewing, the one that stood out to me was, and I don't remember the name of the song, but it's when Audrey II is convincing Seymour to feed him people, and specifically to feed him the dentist. You know?
Yeah.
And it picks up into like a rock beat. Down, 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 and he's singing like he's so nasty, treating her rough. You know, smacking her around and I was talking. So it got to this angry, really rock beat kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was so feeling it because we just watched this dentist beating the crap out of Audrey.
Yes.
And I was like feeling it right along with him. I was like, yeah, kill that dude.
It's like, hey, the plant's right.
Oh man.
But I could see in that moment, it was like it caught me up. The plant was fooling me a little bit too, just into wanting that, into justifying that, and to seeing how Seymour would get swept up into all of that. So that was the standout in this last viewing.
Awesome. Well, Peter, what's something that this movie fooled you into liking also?
Okay, it only fooled me in the sense of I was like, how the
I was looking for a segue, Peter.
Yeah. It
Workshop
fooled me in the sense when I watched this movie again, because I bought the Blu-ray, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something like that. And I was watching it and I was like, how are they doing these plant effects? How are they doing this with Audrey? You know, because so the special effects and the fact that they are not CG and look better If they were to make this with CG today, it would be so detectable to the eye. And even if it was the best CG, it would not be as good as what they did here because it was on set. It was on set. And I was like, I know that is a massive puppet. How are they doing this? And I watched, back years ago when I got the Blu-ray, I watched all the behind the scenes features and stuff like that. And it's so simple. They just had the actors that when they're in the same shot with the plant to act slow and speed up the footage. They recorded it like
really. Why are you breaking the movie magic for me, Peter?
I think it makes you appreciate it more.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
And it's not all the time, but like it's especially like impressive when what's the actor who plays Seymour? I'm suddenly forgetting.
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis. It's especially impressive when he is singing or talking or doing an action, because unless you're looking for it, it's really hard to spot.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, we could have such a better Hollywood today. Why don't we have this Hollywood? Why aren't people doing this kind of thing? So and alongside mentioning the special effects in general, I have to mention the just extravagant, too long, but extravagant 5-minute world domination sequence of the director's cut. I thought it was a feat to put that plant together and have it do all that it did in this movie. Yes, there were multiple plants because they had to do different sizes, but it still felt like the same plant, the same space, basically. And then you see this 5-minute sequence in the director's cut where these plants they're everywhere and they're destroying all kinds of stuff. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't look as good in all the shots, for sure. But it was still just like, I can't believe how extravagantly produced this whole sequence.
Sure.
And audiences, it just like totally got cut. I understand why, and we'll get to that. But wow, man.
And they had multiple plants.
Yes, they did. Yeah. They used miniatures. They spent $5 million of that $30 million budget doing that ending scene only for it to be scrapped when it was released. So they just invested so much. I watched a behind the scenes of them doing that was someone had uploaded to YouTube, and they had their own commentary, but it was really cool to just see how they pieced it together. I watched a lot of still frames of it, and it's just like, whoa.
So Ashley, what's another thing that made you go whoa about this movie?
Another thing that made me go whoa were the characters in this movie. I was just swept away at Audrey and Seymour and the performances of Rick Moranis and Ellen Greene. I feel like they really gave so much depth and breadth to their characters that they were playing and the relationship that they had, both pining for one another without actually revealing it, and just being so kind and sweet and having this beautiful friendship while they're working in this really depressing plant shop in a very depressing place. But they're still working towards like making life better for one another and just being so kind and sweet. And then ultimately with a culmination of suddenly Seymour and just revealing like, hey, I liked you all along. And it's just like, oh, like I said earlier, it gets me in the feels just because it is so sweet witnessing a friendship become a romance, and it just feels so honest and authentic, and it feels believable, and it doesn't feel over the top like so many musicals will make romances. It just feels very believable, like it could have happened to anybody.
Absolutely. And Paul, that leaves you before we get to our class makers. What's the first thing apparently that was your like?
It is so small, but basically it was the intro. It wasn't white text on black background. You got into it. You got a song.
Space background.
Yeah. It was introduced to the world. Like if you don't get it within the first minute, you're gonna miss out on the whole movie. Like they established this movie pretty well, I thought.
Awesome. All right. Well, then that leaves our classic makers. Since you guys have already sort of talked to what the classic maker for me was, I'll just say a little bit about it. The puppeteering on Audrey II, like you were saying, Peter, just and Ashley and Paul, you sort of added to it. Just so impressive, so good. Yeah, I think if they did as CG today, they'd make it way too fluid, and just because we know nothing like that is possible, we would know it's fake. Whereas here, I mean, it's moving, it's real, so you can't disassociate. Oh, this is this is CG. You know, it's like it's there. They're somehow making this plant move, and it's just so impressive.
The mouth movements alone
Yes.
look so incredible.
Intricate.
That that's why it's also my classic maker.
Oh, okay.
It is just so cool to watch
puppetry.
the evolution of Audrey from just being a tiny little bud with the first motion to becoming this big, larger than life plant, and it is executed perfectly in every scene that plant monster is in.
Absolutely. So, but what is executed even better to make it your classic maker, Ashley?
Well, this was already alluded to earlier on music being the music was my classic maker.
Oh, okay.
Just from the doo-wop and Motown influences in the music, knowing that it was Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. I loved the lyrics. All the songs were earworms. Francisco, you heard me like humming these songs even before we watched the movie.
Yep.
All in my head, and
I'm like, what are you singing?
Yeah,
I don't know what this is.
the songs, we just had such a great variability of songs and the character songs, from the dentist song to Somewhere That's Green to Suddenly Seymour to the songs that Seymour has with the plant, and even the the mean green mother from outer space. All of these songs are just executed perfectly, and I feel like every song was incredibly individualistic but still fit cohesively together to be a cohesive musical. And I feel like having those influences of the time that it was inspired by, it really did capture the spirit of the times with that unique flourish that you really only get from Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. I'm like, knowing that these were the people who went on to do the first few films in the Disney Renaissance, things that I grew up with, I'm like, it makes me appreciate it even more.
Yeah, and it's weird. I was, for whatever reason, after this, I wanted to listen to some of the Newsies soundtrack, because I remember really liking it, and it's an Alan Menken. He worked on the music for it.
No
I'm
surprise.
Like, yeah.
Alan
I'm like,
Menken
okay,
is
I'm sensing a
everywhere.
theme here. Before we get to Pater's classic maker, real quick from chat, Dale says his classic maker is, I'm a green mean mother from outer space and I'm bad. She means bad. And then Kevin says, music is the classic maker. Hooray, someone said Ashman Menken. Yes, indeed.
So good. So good.
But apparently it's not good enough to make Pater's classic maker. And what
is it?
What was it for you? Well, he mentioned music before, so I thought not. But Pater, what is it?
Yeah. I mean, the music is fantastic. I think for me, though, the songs ultimately would be like nostalgic or fun or just enjoyable on a musical level. But like watching this as an adult, the classic maker for me is the direction and performances for the characters played by Rick Moranis and Ellen Green. And if you guys didn't know this little tidbit, it is that direction and it's their performances that cause them to have to reshoot the entire ending.
Oh, really?
Because the stage show, the director talked about this in the commentary, I believe it was. He said in the stage show, people are at such a distance from these characters, and it's kind of making fun of 1950s B horror movies. And so at a distance, if you're emotionally separated from detached from these characters, it's easy to just see the schlocky, well, the aliens win, and this is a moral lesson for all of us. Don't feed the plants and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But these guys, they brought in deep close-ups on these characters like they were never intended to have in the stage show.
Oh, yeah.
And then Rick Moranis and Ellen Green, both because they're great performers and no doubt because they were directed to do so, really went for subtlety and emotion that audiences could truly invest in, and really feel emotionally attached to and root for these kids, as the director said, to have a happy ending. And so you can understand when test audiences saw the original cut that they were just like, this is terrible. This is not satisfying at all, And so even though, it's more pure to the original of the stage play to have the plants win, by far my preferred ending is the theatrical release, because I'm so attached to these two characters and I've got some Florence Nightingale in me. And so, and so anytime, it's part of the reasons that I'm doing geek ministry online, is like when I see people that are like downtrodden, misunderstood, they don't fit into the world around them, and they're vulnerable in some way to the world around them, and they don't really know how to get in a better situation. My
Yeah.
heart just goes out to them. And so when you have two characters like that, and they're longing for love and a better life, and just like, I mean, all the pieces are in place. I desperately need the emotional catharsis of them having a happy ending.
Aw, that's so
and it's really, it comes down to the direction and the performances.
Yeah.
That's what makes this movie endure to me.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I have a fun fact to build off of what Pater said
Yeah.
about test audiences hating the original ending and really feeling invested in these characters. The documentary that I watched today, they actually rated the test audiences when the movie was made with the original ending. They had rated it on a scale out of 100. Generally, they were saying in that time they were looking for a minimum score of 55 out of 100, just to have a very middling range. And the two test audiences that saw the original, the world-ending
essentially the
kaiju
director's
ending,
cut.
the director's cut, they rated, one audience rated it a 13 out of 100, and the second test audience rated it 16. So that goes exactly to what Pater is saying. You're invested in these characters and you want them to win, and to just, it feels like everything is for naught if the plants win.
Yeah.
I will say it is so funny because only seeing the director's cut and then going back and then watching the last 20 minutes, right where
The shops being destroyed, essentially.
When what's her name, Audrey, the original Audrey, is being eaten, and and I want to say Lewis pulls her out.
Rick Moranis, Seymour, yeah.
Yeah, Seymour pulls her out.
Dark Helmet,
the strong man.
In the director's cut, she's all chomped up by the plant, and she's dying in his arms. But in the theatrical cut, he asks, "Are you all right?" And she immediately gets up and goes, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm getting."
She faints and stumbles a little bit.
Yeah. She's ultimately.
I mean, she's in his arms and stuff, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was about to go to our dislikes just now because we gotta get there, but there's one more thing that I liked, guys. That would be the Rushmore Show. The Rushmore Show is the place for ranking the ultimate top 4 in sports, video games, nostalgia movies, and so much more. Each week, Andy and Kirk spark engaging discussion and friendly debates, making the Rushmore Show your compass in the realm of pop culture rankings. Find them at youtube.com/The Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more.
That's great, Francisco.
Isn't it,
what
Paul?
does the Rushmore Show have to do with Little Shop of Horrors?
Well, what you guys may not know, I called up Frank Oz on the phone. I said, "Hey, Frankie boy." He said, "Yeah, what's up, Francisco?" I said, "Hey, did you shoot any other ending scenes? Like, I know you had the plants on top of the Statue of Liberty. Were there any other places you shot?" He's like, "Yeah, I shot at Rushmore. They were like eating the faces of the presidents." I'm like, "Whoa, Frank, that's amazing. That goes right to my promo." And he's like, "Well, that's great. And who is this again?" I said, I had to go by.
Okay, that's great. I'm sorry, I just can't get over, Frank talking to Frank.
Oh wow! I never got by Frank.
Gonna say, sounds like he's lying to you, because those plants would have never eaten the faces of Mount Rushmore, because they're not actual people and they want blood and human bodies, and stone is not going to satisfy them. Sorry. Yeah. He lied to you.
Fine. Okay, maybe that was all a work of fiction just now, much like this movie. Hey, know something else about this movie? How about some trivia?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Did you all realize the dental tools used in Dr. Orrin Shrively's?
I know this one.
Oh, okay, well, okay. This
Go ahead. I'm just excited to hear it because I know the answer. It's great.
The dental tools used in Dr. Orrin Scrivello's office, who's played by Steve Martin, during Bill Murray's famous scene would again appear in Batman 1989. They're the tools used on Jack Nicholson's Jack Napier / Joker after he fell into the chemicals and the plastic surgeons doing all this work on him. Coincidentally, the Little Shop of Horrors 1960 version was Nicholson's first movie role in which he plays the masochistic patient. So it's like the tools are linked up with Nicholson in this weird way. with that in mind, if this movie was in a superhero comic, what supervillain do you think would have unleashed Audrey II on the world? And you can't choose Poison Ivy. So
That's lame.
What would you? It's too easy is the problem.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, let's begin with Paul.
Honestly, this sounds like something back in the Silver Age of DC Comics with like the Justice League and like Starro coming down, these weird aliens. And so I would think this would fit maybe in like Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, with maybe Brainiac wasn't the villain then, but one of their villains. It just sounds like something from that era, from that time.
Yeah, that era I know so well.
Yeah.
Ashley, how about you?
I said that it wouldn't sound completely unheard of for someone like Lex Luthor to try to utilize this, only for the fact that it wouldn't be unheard of for him to try to utilize alien technology to try to
Stop whining.
to basically take out the world and rebuild it according to his own design. So if he could have like this pact with the stinking space plants to be like, okay, you do this, you take out like all my enemies, you can have this continent and this. I just ask that you leave this alone, and then he gets to build up a new world order because he's going to be the most powerful and
he'd probably have the only like thing that could stop the plants and be like, don't come after me.
Don't cross me, plants.
Yeah,
I know your
exactly.
one weakness,
Yeah.
but you can have like all the other continents. I don't care what you do.
Yes, just give me the desert of California.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Anyway, Pater, how about you?
I mean, the first one I thought of, it's not the best connection, would be Brainiac, just because he's got all those bottled cities, and he actually unleashed recently in DC Comics the whole race of Zarnians, which is Lobo's race, and kind of weaponized them in some way. So that could be a route that would be possible. But as far as precedent, the one that I went to was a little bit more of a deep cut, and it's a villain named Mongol. He's the yellow guy. You guys, he played a role in the Death of Superman story a little bit, and then afterward was involved in nuking Coast City. But he actually brought an alien, like I think it was a plant of some kind that latched on to Superman and put him into this dream world that was like, gave him everything that he wanted. And so it was the ultimate way to like keep him out of commission. It couldn't really hurt him, but it could put him into this dream state that he would never want to think was fake and come out of and stuff. And so that would be a precedent of like, okay, who's a villain that's like used some weird alien race or a plant specifically to go against, the good guys. And so that's the best I came up with, but I'm not super happy with either answer.
Okay.
Well, since you're not happy with that, let me ask you a different question, Pater. What Jim Henson property do you think deserves more spotlight?
Well, I think definitely the one that, this is an obvious answer, Paul. You know the answer to this, and that's Farscape, baby. Right. Oh my gosh.
Of course.
I've seen 2 episodes of Farscape.
Please.
Is there a reason you stopped watching Farscape, Ashley?
No, it was just on Sci-Fi at one point. I was like, this is interesting.
There was more than 2 episodes.
I know, but I don't know. I was fickle when it was on the air. I was younger, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I've been trying. We're gonna just take a pause here, everyone, and say I've been trying
not gonna happen.
to get Ashley to watch Battlestar Galactica for the longest time. I think I've made my peace that it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I watched the miniseries in the first 2 episodes. You had your chance. You blew it.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
I know Pater is a fan of both Farscape and Battlestar Galactica. At least I believe that's right. Is that accurate, Pater?
Yeah, it's crazy you mentioned that because I just showed the first half of the miniseries to my oldest son because Farscape wasn't sticking with him. And I was like, dang it. Well, okay, I'll settle for Battlestar if I can get him into that. So I think he's going to watch the second half with me before too long.
Okay, so my question to you is, do you think it's feasible for me to say, hey, Ashley, let's try watching Farscape? But I've never seen it, so I don't have a good sense. Because you know Ashley so well from this podcast, so I'm sure you could speak to that.
I don't know Ashley's taste at all, but if I were to give my elevator pitch for Farscape, which I don't have one prepared, but it would basically be like, if you want this wildly creative alien story, like space adventure, that's not all buttoned up like Star Trek is, but characters are allowed to be broken and to be angry with each other and fight, but also to grow in their relationships and become deep friends, and romance at the center of it as well. and just like crazy effects and monsters. Like, I mean, if you're tired of Star Wars, that should be my pitch for today. For so many people. If you're tired of Star Wars, but you want something like that, please go back and try Farscape.
Awesome. Okay.
I feel like the Ruiz household has been tired of Star Wars since when did Disney buy Star Wars? Like 2014,
something like that.
So yeah, we've been tired of Star Wars since then.
Yeah.
And you're talking to someone who I swear I talked about this on the Star Trek episode.
You did.
That I love world building. I love relationships. I got so just intertwined in the Star Wars EU when it was a thing before Disney, and I watched a lot of shows like Futurama, and I've seen Firefly, and I've seen 2 episodes of Farscape, and I've watched some Star Trek here and there. So I'm not opposed to sci-fi. I'm not opposed to things like that, but Battlestar Galactica will never happen. Husband.
All right, fine. That's fine. Womp, womp, womp. So, you know what? Ashley doesn't like Battlestar Galactica, but let's find out what we don't like about. You know what? Actually, before we get there, we want to hear what you remembered about Little Shop of Horrors. My bad. I'm so sorry, Rewinders. You are important. We want to hear from you. Why don't you kick things off this time, Paul?
All right. Kennethan says, "Yes, doctor."
I think that's a reference to Bill Murray.
Bill Murray saying, "Yes." Well,
I thought it was Ellen. Yes, doctor.
And Ellen, I was about to say it was also Ellen. Basically, anyone who talked to the doctor.
Sorry, doctor.
Yeah. Who Will Save Generation X podcast says, I remember being a kid at church when this movie came out, and another kid said that the movie was satanic because Audrey 2000 was an allegory for the devil. The devil. He tempted Seymour to betray his morals in return for the desires of the world. Although now as an adult, I can see that kid's point of view. But back then, I told the kid he was wrong and dumb, mostly because I didn't know what the word allegory meant back in 1986.
Yeah. Wardell White says, I remember it being one of the many movies my uncle would bring home to the house. I remember Martin album, remember Martin alum, Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold being 2 of the 3 women to welcome us into Skid Row of fun. I pretty much love seeing and hearing Rick Moranis as Seymour singing and dealing with a green mean mother from outer space, voiced by Four Tops Levi Stubbs. I also loved seeing most of the actors that popped in throughout the movie, including Steve Martin as the dentist. Fun times.
Indeed. And then David Bobke says, so many names I love in this movie. Rick Moranis, John Candy, Christopher Guest, Steve Martin, Bill Murray. The music is great. Always catch myself singing and tapping my foot to most songs. And as a young kid, when Mushnick yelled, he forgot, I used to yell out, he got. Okay, which was very cute. I'm sure it was, Baba. So
he's a young kid.
That Christopher Guest cameo is so great because, like, when I was a kid, I didn't know who Christopher Guest was.
Right.
I mean, I guess I had seen him in The Princess Bride by that point, but I hadn't watched any of his mockumentaries.
But you can't tell that's him either.
Well, years later, after becoming a fan of Christopher Guest's mockumentaries, I watched this again, and that dude came in the door. It's like, what the crap? That's Christopher Guest.
Right.
Bobo concludes, though. There were some not so cute things about this film, though. I wonder what they were. Feed me some Tragic Makers. We will do that, Baba, right now. Getting to the things we didn't like. Alice, kick it up.
Worst woos.
And I'm going to start with Paul this time. What's one thing you didn't like about Little Shop of Horrors? I was about to say Audrey II, but Little Shop of Horrors.
Because I watched the director's cut first, and I was making my notes in it. This is where my first dislike came in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of my, and that is when watching the director's cut. By the time that Rick Moranis feeds Audrey I to Audrey II, to the point of the plants taking over the world. The pacing is just so slow. I mean, emotionally, the world is over for us at that point anyway. It's like, okay, let's get to the end. You take over. Let's go. But the pacing there is just so slow. And even Peter mentioned, like taking over the world. It's great, like for puppetry and everything, but even that drags on a little bit. So I thought the pacing towards the end there was pretty slow. Now, the theatrical version from that point on picked up. I thought was great. So
I wonder if the pacing there, because I totally agree. I wonder if that decision and that edit was more about like, hey, people have never seen what we originally intended, and we have all this stuff that we made. Let's give them everything but the kitchen sink, and just so they can see all that they've not seen before. I wonder if that was kind of like the motivation for that cut, because certainly the first time I watched it, it was really crazy and cool to see all this added material. But second viewing, I'm like, yeah, this is going on way too long.
Right.
Well, I'll say for my first viewing, it was way too long.
Really?
Like,
okay.
At first, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Oh, man. Oh, so they're actually like taking over lots of things. But then I felt like they were not repeating shots. Like sometimes films like, oh, we need to just repeat these few frames because we need to fill in the space. I felt like they were repeating content. Like they kept showing people running away, then plants destroying buildings, and then plants destroying different buildings, then different people running away. And it's just the same things over and over in different ways. I'm like, okay, I get it. They won. I don't need to see, but I don't need to see this it felt like 10 minutes. It may have only been 5, but it just, I agree with you, Paul. It dragged. I think you're right though, Peter, that it's probably like, let's really just like throw everything at them, but they needed someone to edit them down. Cause it was just, throw all that stuff out. About a quarter of it needs to be seen though. Cause it's just too long. Okay. So that's me and Paul's first dislike, it sounds like. Let's go to Ashley next. What's something you didn't like?
Like, taking the cat right out of the bag and just putting words in my mouth, because like that is exactly how I felt too. To be completely honest, it just dragged. Someone should have fixed it, because even in the ending of the stage musical, even though yes, the plants win, it doesn't go on and on and on because they can't make a big production of kaiju plants. So they allude
That'd be
to
amazing,
it.
Though.
The like basically the 3-girl chorus. And the cast sings "Don't Feed the Plants," and they allude to all of it. But I feel like, it was incredibly drawn out. I felt like the lead up with like everyone having Audrey IIs and the plants tricking all the people, like that was a perfect setup. But you showed that you were capable of doing something grand and over the top. We didn't need to see it like times 10.
You were too busy thinking whether or not you could. You didn't stop to think whether or not you should.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like it definitely added, but it also took away because it just went on for far, far too long.
Interesting to note. Do you know how the 1960 version ended?
Yes.
Just because I've seen like the last 5 minutes, but
I don't remember.
Go ahead, Paul. How does
I was about to say, basically, he eats Seymour and that's it.
Okay.
He doesn't. Everyone else that he hasn't eaten lives, and the plant doesn't take over. It's more like a cautionary tale, because in that version, it wasn't a plant from outer space. It was Seymour. He was mixing and plants, different species together, and try to grow them and see if he can create different types of plants.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
So it's more of a cautionary tale, like be careful what you get into, and he winds up dying from it. So
okay, gotcha. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm also interested to hear, Peter, what is your first dislike of this movie? Is it the last scene, or is it something else?
No, this was tough. I mean, like it would have been what you guys mentioned if I was thinking about the director's cut. But for me, like when I'm evaluating this movie, there's only the theatrical cut.
Okay.
The director's cut in my mind is just kind of an interesting oddity. It's almost a special feature, But so because of that, it was really hard to come up with 3 things that I disliked. I really like this movie.
Okay.
So the one thing I came up with that I could barely fit in to make 3 is I might have seen Ellen Green's hair under her wig. I think she's a brunette.
That's it. Tragic movie right here.
I think in one
it's almost like you're watching a play.
So I think I saw a little bit of her natural hair color on the back. At the top of her neck in
curly-haired brunette.
All right.
So there you go.
Well, how about this, pair? I'll poo-poo something you just said in your like section for my next dislike.
Okay.
And it's like, I don't fathom. I know this is musical. I know it's sort of like has its silliness, But why in the world with this small plant that has such a small footprint that no one can really see if they're just walking by, attract person after person after person after person? That's just completely unbelievable to me. And that Christopher Guest, just this businessman, just comes in Skid Row. He just happens to be there. Oh, hello. I would like to. That plant is very cool.
That's part of the humor.
No, what humor?
That is part of the humor.
There's no humor at all.
What a strange and interesting plant.
Yes.
Okay, if there was a reason for him to be there that I could believe, sure. But there isn't. There's no reason to be there.
He is there to further the plot.
It's on a meta level, too, because they're
device.
celebrating, but also poking a little bit of fun at these classic B sci-fi movies. And so that overly simplistic character that comes in is all smiley face. That is part of them poking fun of these old B movies.
Okay, that actually makes sense.
If you need an in-world explanation, it's science fiction, and the plant has powers.
Yeah,
it was lost on me though, and so for that, it was a dislike. So, those are valid explanations for sure. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Ashley. What's something else you didn't like?
Wow, my dislikes feel petty by comparison. But honestly, something that was driving me crazy watching this movie, knowing how talented a singer Ellen Greene is, the fact that some of her vocal transitions when she was singing, trying to transition between baby voice and her actual professional singer voice, sometimes it was jarring because that transition was not there. Because there were times where she was just scaling back and she was light and she was in her head voice with her little baby voice. But then there's moments in Suddenly Seymour where she goes into her head voice and she's just bursting out. It almost sounds like she's choking for air because she can't quite find that balance. And I know that she originated this role on Broadway. She was one of the original Audreys, and she is this character. When people think of Little Shop of Horrors, they think of Audrey. You think of Ellen Greene just because she is synonymous with the role. But she's a professional singer. She's trained. It's just like, you've done this role before. How do you not have this balance? You are so talented. Can you find that balance between baby and like belting it out? Because Suddenly Seymour is a belter, but there's sometimes where it sounds like someone hit you in the chest with a shovel. It's just too much and I can't.
I would love to hear her like a full, like in her natural voice.
I would love to see it. And maybe it would take Audrey a little more seriously if she didn't talk with the baby. But that seems like very stereotypical of a character from that time. Like this over-the-top woman who's just like, I attract all the boys because I'm a blonde and I'm just so cute and sweet. And I don't know. It was just too much for me at times.
No, I get that.
And it just pulled away because she is so talented and she just embodies this character and she's so good, but it was jarring for me and hard to watch sometimes.
Totally fair. Peter, what's something that was hard to watch for you, if you could find something else?
Yeah, no, the other two were easier to pick out.
Okay.
And very much in line with what Ashley said. I mean, like, it's I'll get into a little bit of like some nerdy vocal performance
that's fine
stuff, but just like first of all, it was very jarring, but more than the transition being jarring to me, it felt inconsistent with who Audrey was in this movie. That like for her to suddenly go into these big belting things was just like, I wasn't seeing it. It like her singing is strong. I mean, the extrinsic tension is a little bit too much. And like, I feel like, oh my God, sometimes I look at her neck like, oh my girl, please just be careful.
Like she's going to burst.
But but it never felt fitting when she would go into belting with the Audrey character, that especially the mode of Audrey. Well, that's the only mode when she's speaking, is that as you described, the baby voice, you know. That is Audrey, and so for her to have this other singing voice, it was just kind of taking me out and reminding me, oh yeah, that's right, she's a Broadway singer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Paul, what sort of took you out of the movie that so much you didn't like it?
Because I had watched the 1960 version first, it was hard for me not to make comparisons.
Well, then why did you go and do that?
You had to start at the source.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So. All right.
I was happy to see that this movie was based on the play, which was based on the movie that I watched. So I knew I was on the right track. I just hadn't seen the play. But in the 1960 version, see, the dentist is actually the second person that Seymour kills, but it's accidental.
Does he actually kill the dentist in the play?
See, in the 60s version, that's his dentist. The reason why he's there is because he's visiting the dentist.
Oh, okay.
And it's an accident that he kills him. He like comes at him with a knife or a scalpel or something. He says no or whatever, trips or whatever. Anyway, much like it was accidental, like that Steve Martin was killed here too.
Yeah.
But he, in the 60 version, he wasn't there to kill him, and he was like, oh no, I have to get rid of this body somehow. I'll just feed it to the plant, kind of a thing. Where in this version, it makes me like the Seymour character less because he's gone into murder mode. Where I think if he kept it as an accident, like even kept it, that's his dentist and it's there, I don't want to get blamed for this. I have to hide the body. It makes it a little more plausible. It makes me want to like the Seymour guy better rather than, well, I guess I have to go kill people now because this plant is talking to me, So I think it would have made me root for him a little more if he were a little more innocent in that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's some of the tension between making Seymour a character that we root for, and then also having a cautionary tale, a cautionary moral that to some degree, if we're going to have a cautionary moral, we have to have someone that we care about start heading toward a moral failing that we are happy to see them kind of come back out of. So, I mean, your point is well taken. And it's kind of like a rock in a hard place as they're trying to juggle those two things.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
The whole message of don't feed the plants. Be careful what you wish for. Like, just don't take anything at face value. If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Indeed. Much like the things that were probably too good to be about this movie, that I'm failing at coming up with a tragic maker transition. So let's just go into our tragic makers. Let's begin with Peter. What's the thing you dislike most or you hate most about Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love this movie, and an issue that I noticed when I watched it on TV as a kid and thought would be better when I got the Blu-ray and was not, to my great disappointment, not much better, is the unintelligibility of so many lyrics in this. And a lot of it happened. A lot of it happened with the trio, the doo-wop trio, and when it was an ensemble song, those are always harder to kind of make out the lyrics for.
Yeah,
but I'm
so
just
thankful for subtitles.
Yes.
Yeah, this was the first time I ever watched with subtitles.
Oh, okay.
I finally just buckled down. I was like, I want to know what they're singing every single word.
Yeah.
And there was some great stuff in there that I never saw before. Some great stuff that fed into the moral of the story, and I mean, just some great stuff. What else? So it's recording and mixing as well, but then it's also vowel modification, and this is getting into nerdy vocal stuff. But with the Ellen Green, whenever she gets into her chest voice, as all chest voice singers do when they're really belting up there, all of their vowels start biasing toward or and you lose the sense of the word. And so, like, especially when she would start belting, I was just like, you've lost me. I think, that was, she said suddenly Seymour. Okay. And then what are we doing after that? Oh, you lost me like halfway through that sentence, So I think that there was stuff with the recording and mixing, and then stuff just from a vocal technique standpoint that sadly made some of these wonderful lyrics just get totally lost for me.
Yep.
Do you think that would be less so the case if you didn't have all this vocal training? Do you think it would still hit you the same way, or that may be hard to sort of disassociate yourself from where you're at now? But
it would only hit me it hits me harder because I know how they could fix it, at least from a vocal standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I know some things that she could do to.
Right.
So she's not modifying her vowels so much, so she's not pushing her chest voice. She can mix the tone a little bit more, and she won't. And that's what the microphones are for. When you come off of Broadway and you start doing something that you're in this recording studio, or when you're doing a movie, you don't have to use the same technique to get it out there. You know, that we can do so much more, and it could be so much clearer. But I think at the end of the day, vocal training or not, it wouldn't make the words any more intelligent.
Yeah, good point.
And so there's still ultimately that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Let's go to Ashley next. What's the thing you hated most about this film?
Oh, this was a tough one. Just trying to put into words, like, what is the thing that I like the least about this particular movie? And I'm torn. I am so torn between the two things that are on my list that are so close into being the same, one and the same. But honestly, I just hate how just like idiotic people in this movie are. The fact that Seymour is like giving the plant blood and then basically making himself like a blood bank. Yeah, anemic, making himself a blood bank for this stupid plant. Plant shouldn't be talking to you, genius. You shouldn't have never trusted the stinking plant. And Audrey.
And who goes to that dentist? Who continues to go to this dentist?
Yeah, who goes
Bill Murray.
Well, okay.
Well, there's a reason why he goes there. That's another problem that he's dealing with.
He wants the candy bar.
But then Audrey, like, given her background, having no self-respect because she doesn't know any better, and just staying in a terrible relationship, and you've got Mushnick commenting on it.
But there are people like that.
I know, and I know that there's believability to that, but it's just like, you're a bunch of idiots. It's hard to root for you. I like the relationship that you have with one another, where you're kind of learning from your mistakes and trying to be better. But gosh, you're a bunch of idiots.
It's not that they're idiots. It's just hard to root for idiots.
Yeah, it's hard. It can be hard to root for idiots because it's like, I know that I've made similar mistakes, but I'm like, if a plant was talking to me, feed me, I'm like, you're not getting my blood. It's like, and I'm not going to resort to murder, because if a plant is telling me that it's going to like give me my wildest dreams, I'm like, are you a genie plant? How are you going to do that? I mean, yeah, you're going to get all this notoriety because look at this plant. It's so strange and interesting. And as it got bigger and bigger and bigger, like, you don't think that this plant isn't going to do something? You can't put two and two together? You're so naive. I know that that's how the character is written. But it's hard to root for all that. It's like, have some self-respect. Maybe set the plant on fire. The fact when it started to demanding to eat people instead of just your blood, and it's just yelling at you all the time, like, feed me, feed me, feed me. At least a cat, when they're asking for food and they're like meow or meowing or yowling at you, they're at least cute when they do it. This plant is despicable.
So Ashley's not so much the Florence Nightingale type.
Not here.
Not if they're
no
idiots.
patience.
Not
if you're an idiot. I like people that are self-aware, that can learn from their misgivings,
Indeed.
and don't continually fall into this pattern of just idiocracy.
Which like makes the director's cut ending even more sort of idiotic. Is like, so is everyone feeding their blood to these plants to make them grow? It's like, how, and once the specialness of the plant is gone, what does it have to tempt these people into feeding it other people? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And like the whole like in the director's cut, Audrey sacrificed, thinking like, oh, if I sacrifice my dying body to this plant, at least I can be part of something. And she's thinking that she's going to be able to make this contribution and like make Seymour's life better because he's going to get the fame and the fortune, and thinking like, that's an idiotic thing. And then the plant just eats him anyway. So it's like all of it was for naught. So I have like all this tonal whiplash. Like after that, it's like this beautiful sacrificial thing. And then the freaking plant is just like, haha, lol, nope. And then eats Seymour, and then is like, I'm going to attack the world and I'm going to dominate. But it's like, hey, plant, even you are an idiot. Once you eat all the people, what is there to dominate? You're going to start eating animals next, or you're just going to wipe everything out at the same time, and then you're like, oh, crap.
Well, that's what you've seen alien movies, right? That's what they do. They come, they obliterate, they harvest or they eat, and then they move on to the next planet.
It's like Independence Day.
But I'm like,
yeah,
is there going to be another total eclipse of the sun? How do these stupid plants even get there? It's like, we travel through sunbeams.
Maybe. But I want to hear
solar eclipses.
I want to hear how Paul's Tragic Maker travels through the internet sphere.
Well, it's basically what the worst thing about this to me is the direction to you for Audrey, for Ellen Green to use that breathy voice,
The baby voice thing. Or
a baby voice is fine, but to add that such breathiness to it, it's just like, okay, I can understand what you had, like many different levels, and it's throughout the whole film, and then she tries singing through it. It's just, I just wish she used her normal voice. Now, even in the 1960 version, the girl had a little bit of it, but that doesn't mean like whose ever decision it was, whether it be the play or the movie, to have like that be the voice is so annoying to me. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. And so, and it's throughout the whole movie. So to me, it's the worst thing about the movie.
Gotcha. And okay, that's totally fair. Now, unfortunately, so that leaves my Tragedy Maker. And unfortunately, guys, we're going to have to do a Francisco's Fabulous fan fiction. It's fabulous.
Oh my gosh. How many versions do I have to watch?
Can I imagine how this goes?
No, because I sort of told you a little bit of what I was thinking before. So,
but I bet you that I could predict it. See
I'm
how well
sure
I know
you could. So here's the thing, guys. I hated both endings. Hated them both.
Whoa.
Because I could have written them better. And even it sounds like from the 1960s version, I could think of a better ending. And here's how it goes. Cue the music. All right, so you have at the end, toward the end, Audrey II is busting out of her pot. She's starting to move. She's like, I don't need you anymore, Seymour, because I can move and talk and do all the things now. Blah, ha, 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 ha. So, and this is after Audrey, you can let her live or not. This doesn't really matter for that. It probably is better if she lives, but let's say she lives. But Seymour goes back, is facing Audrey, and he's like trying to get out of the way. Audrey's trying to grab him. He's trying to get out of the way. He goes behind the counter and sees a bottle of weed killer or something. He decides he's going to sacrifice himself, holds onto the weed killer so that Audrey doesn't see it. How Audrey sees to begin with, to dial phones and whatever. We're not going to go down there. But apparently Audrey II could see. So he holds this ball so the Audrey II can't see it. He sacrifices himself. Audrey II withers away and dies. That is such a better ending to this whole thing. I don't care if it's a cautionary tale about getting what you... I think him dying would allow us to still get to that moral of like, be careful what you wish for. Don't be tempted by the things of the world because it's going to end you in the end. But at least his self-sacrifice saves Audrey, saves the planet. I think that's such a more beautiful ending than either of these two endings. So that is, how dare you, PolitiPower.com.
I was like, Francisco doesn't like happiness.
I'm fine with him dying. I think it's better if he dies. Audrey, I'm happy if she lives. I think if she dies too, that's fine. That makes it even more sad. But I think he needs to die for this and Audrey to die, him being able to kill her, to have this heroic overcoming while still sacrificing himself.
If he has plant killer food, why does he sacrifice himself just to feed it the plant killer food?
Well, I don't know. Maybe because if Audrey II was dumb enough like Jaws to just like toss the bottle in and that'd be the way to kill her, fine. But I feel like Audrey II would be able to spit that out.
But what if it was somewhere like in between those two endings where, say, Seymour came into Audrey II devouring Audrey. She still dies to her injuries. The plant is like, ooh, dinner. And she doesn't like say, I'm giving myself to the plant, but it's tragic and the plant eats her. And then Seymour's like, not my woman. And he comes out of the corner and he's got a flamethrower and he just burns
that'd be fine
stinking plant to the ground. And he's like, he's seeking revenge for his woman. It's like, we were going to get married. We were going to have this life. You ruined it all, plant.
But I don't like Audrey dying and Seymour not also dying. Audrey should live and Seymour should die, or they both die.
I was going to say, out of the two of them, Audrey can die. That baby voice can die with her.
That baby airy voice. Okay, Peter, I think you wanted to say something.
The ending I would like would be a merging of these two endings, where like when the salesman guy comes and interrupts them and says, "Could you two kids just stop singing for 1 minute?" And he pitches this whole idea, and then we could have the sequence in some way kind of continue and fool the audience into believing that like actually happened. Then at some point after the tragic ending, we go, and we come back and we realize that was Seymour considering this offer and like what maybe would happen. You know?
Okay.
But if I can't have that ending, then I would change my Tragic Maker to Francisco's ending because that's
What?
Sorry, husband.
Wow. That hurts my heart right now. But we have all entered our trajectories into the firing computer. Alice, do you have a firing solution for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo armed and ready to fire on your mark.
I did like James Belushi as the salesman better than the other guy.
And I like my ending better than these endings. But
you would.
Now it's time for the moment of truth. Do we rate Little Shop of Horrors a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see it, whether or not you've seen it before. A nostalgic, if you remember liking it, sure, go back, revisit it. It'll be a fun time. But if you've never seen it before, pass this one by. Or much like Free Hugs in chat is saying, a tragic. No one should see this. If you've never seen it before, definitely keep it that way. And if you have seen it before, don't sully any good memories you have of it with a rewatch. Let's begin with our guests as we like to. Ashley, what is your final reign for Little Shop of Horrors? You had predicted nostalgic. Where did it end up for you?
And nostalgic, it shall stay.
Nostalgic, it shall stay. Okay. And that's it? Okay, that's fair. Thank you, because we do need to go. Peter, how about you? You had predicted a classic. Where did it end up for you?
Yeah, it remained a classic. I think I realized at some point this is my favorite musical of all time.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Yeah. There are plenty of songs and elements from other musicals that are stronger than some of the strongest moments in this musical. But I just realized,
but as a whole,
I just realized I don't keep watching those over the years. I don't keep going back to those. This is the one that I end up coming back to and wanting to show my boys, wanting to show my wife, different things like that. Like this is the one that I seem to keep coming back to. And so I really think it is my favorite musical of all time. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
For all the likes and classic makers that I mentioned and stuff is what makes it a classic for me.
Awesome. Okay. So nostalgic for Ashley, classic for Peter, and we like to go out to you, our reflux capacitors. We like to get your input on these movies. Thank you for supporting the show. And collectively, you guys rated Little Shop of Horrors also a classic. So we have two classics so far. Now let's get to me and Paul's ratings. Paul, you had predicted nostalgic, like Ashley. Where did it end up for you?
So when I first rewatched this, it was with the director's cut. And at the end of it, I had no desire to watch it again. But I still rated it nostalgic because I still thought it was good. But after rewatching the ending of the theatrical, I liked it much better. And I look forward to possibly watching it again sometime. So with that, I'm actually keeping it as a nostalgic anyway.
Okay.
I mean, I do like it, but it's still nostalgic.
Okay.
It's like a warm sweater.
All right. Yeah. Sure. And then in chat, we have lots of different people saying lots of things. Sean says nostalgic. Ken says classic. Babo says feed me salvo. How dare you, Babo? Free Hugs, I imagine, would say tragic, given some of the other things he said previously while we've been recording. For me, guys, so I don't know what there is to say. I mean, I think I'm going to give a classic to the soundtrack for this movie, but this movie can go down. It was just like the music is so good.
Wow,
but
that was ordained by God.
You make me sad.
Did you know? You cut out?
What?
When you got into your crazy railing mode,
it just went mute.
The audio went mute.
Don't worry, good podcast listener. It won't go mute for you.
I heard every word, and
That's
I heard
right.
it twice.
So let me say it again. Tragic for this movie. The soundtrack is great. I think all of you are just thinking it's good because of the soundtrack. It's actually the movie. Unless it adopts my ending, it is tragic.
Sorry, husband. The soundtrack is part of the collective movie. It is part of it. It is ingrained. You can't separate it from it. I'm sorry. You're wrong.
I think you can. I think they sell it separately.
Yes, you can, but you're living in denial because you're just picking, you're cherry picking. And you can't do that with this movie. Sorry.
So, because we have 2 classics and 2 nostalgics and 1 tragic, I think we're unfortunately going to have to average these out to give, according to the Retro Rewind podcast, Little Shop of Horrors is a disputed nostalgic film. If you've seen it before, go watch it again. You'll have fun with it. Maybe share it with your youngins. But if you've never seen it before, go watch something else or film Francisco's ending and then watch it in place of this ending.
They're never going to give you money to do that.
No, not me. The people that are agreeing with me.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nostalgic.
Yes. I think.
Is nostalgic. There you go.
Wow. But now it's time to get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
20XX.
ComSat Online. Awaiting incoming transmissions.
It would feel much better to be back if you had all agreed with me. But regardless, thank you all, our amazing reflux capacitors, for supporting this content, namely Deborah Powers, Geek Devotions, Drew of the Cellcast, Ashley Ruiz, oh, you're right here, Kennethan, Fabulous Lomax, That's Our Baba, D. Tungsten, Mr. Lost, Daryl Hafner, Cool Deluxe, Dustin, He's a Big Deal Warford, Flux, Redeemed Otaku, in addition to 2 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to help keep us flying and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to start.
This stream is sponsored by PaulJPowers.com, reviewing older games and movies that do well or bomb. If you listen long enough, you might say they're spot on. Check out more reviews on RetroRewindPodcast.com.
Yes, thank you to all our supporters out there. And hey, Francisco, is there any way for people to support the show that doesn't involve money?
Actually, yeah, Paul. I would not buy a plant, but you probably enjoyed.
Commissioner Gord's calling. We got to.
You probably enjoyed this episode if you made it this far. So if you aren't driving, tap the share icon in your podcast player for this episode and send it to a friend saying, "I know you like Little Shop of Horrors for some reason, so thought you'd like this podcast on it." And I'll pause there. Peter, do you have to go right now? Because then I can. Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Cool, and I'll bet they'll thank you for it.
Maybe.
Hold on. You're all right. Cool, and I'll bet they'll thank you for it. And speaking of thanking people, we also want to give a big plant hug to Peter Franson and Ashley Reese for supporting us with their thoughts on Little Shop of Horrors, the 1986 both versions.
Yes.
And since we like to go alphabetically, we're going to start with Ashley. Where can people find you online? Is there anything cool you got going on?
Find me on Instagram and on the app formerly known as Twitter at Ashley Ruiz 1186. I like to post pictures of cutesy things on Instagram, and I like to tweet about all things faith and fandom on Twitter.
Cool. And Peter, thank you so much for coming back on again. It's great to having you back on. And where can people find you online? And is there anything cool you got going on that people should know about?
Christian Geek Central. It's a .com. It's a YouTube channel. And if you kind of explore a little bit, you find my audio dramas that I've produced over the years. So a lot of nerdy stuff that's made specifically for Christian geeks. Reviews from a Christian perspective and a Bible study with kind of like a geek perspective in mind. So lots of stuff specifically for Christian geeks that you can find at ChristianGeekCentral.com or the YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter, Ashley, my not so much a plant, but awesome friend Paul, and all you rewinders, new and old, for another fun voyage. We also want to thank Alutrick for enhancing our music. Find him at alutrick.bandcamp.com or youtube.com/@Alutrick. That's spelled ALLOOUTRICK, then the number 8266 for the YouTube. So thank you so much to him.
It's too bad he enhanced the music, but not the audio quality of that promo. That doesn't.
Fix it in post.
Anyway, yes. And thank you indeed. And you can find me on pauljpowers.com. You can find me there at pauljpowers.com, where I have all my social media links.
At pauljpowers.com.
Yes, how'd you know?
Wow. And you can find me on our Discord for show announcements or just to say hi. Join us there at retrorewindpodcast.com/Discord. And keep in the know about the board game I'm currently designing called Junkyard Juggernauts at junkyardjuggernauts.com.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box, a curated collection of podcasts, videos, and articles that will provide you a balanced meal of content. You will find culture celebrated for its past and future, satirized for its extremes, explored in study, and created anew in story. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
As Audrey II just said, we are now part of the Culture Box Media Network. Find all the shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media.
Thank you, XO, and thank you for listening. We pray you are more joyful today than when you first hit play, but like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for Airplane 2, our next adventure on the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to base to await next mission.
You're a monster and so am I. It's gotta end. It's gotta stop right here.
With some weed killer and self-sacrifice. That's right. Okay. This had Dr. Pepper in it, and I had water in my water bottle. Okay, guys?
Oh, wait.
Okay. So, real quick, Peter.
Okay, now cue the music and that star thing.
Sorry, I was a little late on that one.
Remind me, I think you said you had to leave at 8:02 or was it 8:20?
8:10.
8:10. Okay.
He needs to leave now.
Yeah.
So he can
We
leave by
finished
8:10.
just in time.
So we finished. Yeah. If there's a question, if you could share your spiritual speculation with us, we could discuss it.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So what was it going to be?
Yeah, it's it comes out, I think, much more strongly in the director's cut, which really kind of hammers home the message more. But just the idea of consumerism and careless dream chasing really leads us to do damage to ourselves and to others. That's what all of them were responding to.
Wait, it does?
The plant.
That's the American dream.
Yeah, I know. The plant was kind of like feeding Seymour all these dreams and things that he could make come true. And
that was my spiritual speculation. I forgot.
And Audrey, you know, they had this very naive idea of what would make her happy in somewhere that's green. You know, this very consumerism-driven idea of what happiness looks like.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so there's a real naivete in what she is longing for that she thinks is going to make her happy. And so that kind of careless, foolish type of dream chasing and consumerism does damage to ourselves and to others. And also Ashley kind of commented on this, but her one with the universe thing of like, I'm going to be one with the plant and so I'll be with you and stuff. I'm like,
oh yeah,
you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
And clearly it's a false cold comfort with the rest of the movie. And so like, it was a weird kind of nod where in the moment, I feel like in the director's cut, we're supposed to feel that, like that's good. I suspect in the play, because we're kept more at a distance, we were kind of meant to snicker a little bit at that idea. You know, it is a little bit silly.
I thought it was a seed of nihilism for the later part.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a little seed of like Buddhism or something that I'm not sure, or pantheism that I'm not sure how serious we're supposed to take it.
Sure.
It certainly ends up being a cold comfort. But anyway, yeah.
Well, we'll discuss that. Thank you so much, Peter, for being on. It's awesome having you again. Have a great rest of your night. And we'll go ahead and end the stream too. So free hugs, Bobo, Paul, jeez, wow.
Wow, don't thank me. Okay, I see how it is.
Paul, Ken, Dale, Sean. I think I said Bobo
Ashley.
already. Yes, Ashley. Everyone. Peter, let's just include everyone. Thank you all for being here. And until next time, here is your stream face.